Story 1. I think nothing, have always loved this quote by Oscar Wilde. Death must be so beautiful, to lie in the soft brown earth, with the grasses waving above one's head, and listen to silence. To have no yesterday and no tomorrow. To forget time, to forgive life, to be at peace. Oscar Wilde, The Canterville Ghost. Story 2. I died last February 13th. I attempted suicide by taking 3 months' worth of 3 of my medications. Lithium, oxcarbazepine, and clonidine. I died at home, was resuscitated there, and taken to the helicopter they called for me. I died twice more on the helicopter and once more at the hospital, and I was placed on life support. For days later I came to and I was furious, but I went to this black nothingness. It sounds terrifying, but it was the most peaceful bliss I've ever experienced. I felt nothing but was also so content. Just a dark, peaceful void. No one talked to me, no bright lights, just absolute peace. I hope that's what it's like when you die or there's nothing at all. Life is excruciating, and I don't want it eternally. Story 3. I think that the only way anyone can know for sure what happens is to die and stay dead. Anything else is just guessing. Anyone who tells you that they are certain they know are not being honest with themselves or you. Story 4. Your entire existence and all of reality cease to exist, only to shortly after restart into existence again, and a big sign comes up saying, Level 2. Story 5. The sparks that I recognize as my conscious self will cease to fire in my brain when my heart ceases to beat. My body should go to the earth to feed the creeping, crawling things therein and the mycelium network. The energy of my spirit will enter a cycle beyond my comprehension in a manner beyond my understanding, and for all I know, I will become a tree or nothing. Story 6. There is this giant room full of people and snacks. It's rather interesting. You can reunite with some people and really strike up some interesting conversations. Meet people from all over the world. Reunite with people you haven't seen in decades. Some have come up to you and offered apologies, and others you've been able to get things off your chest. You can even strike up a conversation with some notable figures from history. But there are the callers. These people announce your name, and then you are escorted through these doors never to be seen or heard of again. When the callers announce your name, it is because it has been spoken on earth for the final time. Many times it is sad because it is the last loved one you knew who had just died, and instead of seeing that person again, you are being escorted through the doors as they are walking into the room. No one knows what is beyond those doors. Some people, well, they are stuck. George Washington, Attila the Hun, Sir Isaac Newton. They are all here and going nowhere anytime soon. Most people seem to be staying a bit far from Adolf Hitler. He's got this table of shame, but there are others who seem to really want to meet him. Others, well, they are just stuck and they want to move on. Like that farmer over there. Over a century ago, his tractor flipped over while he was working the farm, and he died. There is now a university on his former farm, and every semester the college tour guides mention him and his death. Everyone he ever knew has gone through those doors, and it doesn't matter what is beyond those doors. It would mean being with his loved ones overstuck in this eternal waiting room. Story 7. I made a YouTube video answering this question from a spiritual perspective. If you are religious and believe that you are only a lump of flesh, then don't bother watching. If you are open and curious from an energy perspective, then curiosity will be very beneficial. Cheers. Story 8. Which honesty really sucks. My dad died unexpectedly in March, and I miss him dearly. My mom died 10 years ago. I want to see them again. Story 9. I think we go back to pure consciousness, void of the personality we just were. We reflect on the experiences we had and previous experiences, and then get to choose the next experience our consciousness will have. Maybe. Story 10. You either become or return to spirit. You haunt the people you loved, the people who loved you. You make your presence known if those you haunt are receptive. If they are not receptive when conscious, you haunt their dreams a bit. Dreams that could actually happen, like going out to lunch or celebrating an occasion. You make yourself known, and you come only with love. I also believe that when you're dead, you don't remember any of the bad. Only the good and the positive, and dwell in the bright light of love. You don't understand why someone you did wrong to in life doesn't forgive your transgressions. You try to let the living know you are now just a ball of bright light and love. This is my belief. We are flesh. The flesh means nothing, the spirit means everything. Can I explain this about people who have lived absolutely horrific lives, like Adolf Hitler? No. I cannot imagine there was anyone left for him to come and haunt and bring forth love. My mom popped into my mind one day on the way to work. Literally, I was talking out loud to her, and I believe with her, though I didn't actually hear her, but I felt what she was saying. And that is when it hit me. She didn't understand all the angst and anger I was harboring because, for her, there was only love now that she has passed. She loved us as best she could, as she knew how, and I have forgiven her in spirit form, and I feel the love. Maybe I'm just this way. Story 11. There is this really interesting YouTube channel called The Other Side Near Death Experience where people who died and were resuscitated share their experiences. Most describe entering a space of pure, unconditional love where there is no time or space. Some report life reviews too. A large number of the people interviewed claim that we are souls and bodies on this plane of existence, and before our life here, we chose which life we will live from a different plane of existence. As the other side is described as eternity with no suffering, souls choose to come to this earth to learn and experience new things. Definitely worth a watch. Story 12. I think it is comparable to a blind man who sees nothing. It is not that he sees black, but the whole concept of seeing does not exist. In this case, the soul no longer exists, so life or the knowing of living does not exist either. Story 13. I believe that vaginas are portals in a sense. When you die and go towards the light, you're actually being reborn. I don't feel that it's instant. You could be reborn into the future. During the time of transition from one life to the next, I think you're sent to a place where all your past selves, future selves, and loved ones are. And because I believe we all share and recycle our energy on Earth, this time is spent recharging that energy. Story 14. I think everyone's experience is based on what you believe in. If one believes there is a God, then they will meet said God. If one believes it is a void, then they will be in that void. If one believes it is a never-ending party with everyone you have ever loved, well, you get the gist. Story 15. Everyone becomes very sad and talks about all the good times you had with them. Some of them realize what a gift life really is, and all those on whom you had a positive impact will remember you fondly until they too die, and the cycle continues. Physically and spiritually, though, nothing happens. You cease to exist in any plane except for the memories and stories. Story 16. A lot of things, just none involving you. It's like before you were born until you are dropped into another brain and it starts making memories around 2 or 3. Story 17. I was raised Christian, then became borderline atheistic. Now I believe our energy and consciousness go to a hive collective consciousness of pure love while our body is recycled by the earth. Story 18. Kind of a silly question. You either believe you pass on to the afterlife or nothing happens. Any opinion on this matter is only going to cause arguments in the comments. Story 19. Try to imagine what it would be like to go to sleep and never wake up. Now try to imagine waking up without ever having gone to sleep. I think what happens after we die is what actually happens after we die, quite literally. And it can only be that. I think the question is referring to what happens to one's own individual interpretation of their perceived end of experience here. Wherever you go, there you are. Story 20. Everyone else's lives continue. Your body will end up where you or your relatives choose to dispose of it. Your assets are distributed based on a will or government regulations. Your existence ends unless you leave a digital or print legacy, which can be viewed by those who knew you. Story 21. Things go on as normal without you. My 7-year-old said to me the other day that you die twice. The first when you die, the second when no one remembers you. More or less with a lot more pauses when she said it. Of course, she was repeating what we had told her over the years when talking about grandparents she will never meet. What was amazing was that it resonated with her and that she brought it up when discussing my deceased mother. Story 22. I believe in nothing after death and I am an atheist, but I think Christians have the best view because if they are right about heaven, then it's a win. But if there is nothing, then it didn't matter anyway. Story 23. We cease to exist, but at some point in the future, we respawn as another life form of some sort. It's probably just random what we turn into. Hopefully not a deer, since they are so dumb they just stand in the road and get hit. Story 24. I struggle with this because I really think Jon Snow was right. It's nothing. I mean, think about how you feel when you're put under anesthesia. You don't remember a single thing, just basically fast forwards to when you wake up. But I really hope I'm wrong on that one. Story 25. When I was a kid, I drowned while on holiday with my family. A giant man jumped into the pool on top of me, and no one noticed until I was at the bottom of the pool. I remember the feeling of my lungs being on fire, then shivering, and as everything was going dark, a strange sense of peace. I was okay with it. No panic or terror. Then it went black. I was resuscitated at the side of the pool a few minutes later. I remember nothing from the black to being alive again. I was around 7 when it happened, and since then, I've been strangely at peace with the fact that one day I will die and slip into the dark void of nothingness. Hope that helps. Story 26. I think that sometimes, after you die, an entire nation celebrates your death and calls for your murderer to go free, and women throw themselves at him. He is hailed as a hero. It does not always happen, but sometimes it does. I can only speak for myself, but I hope that does not happen after I die. Story 27. You hear a wah-wah buzzer. You see a 1970s game show host who winces and says, "Sorry, that wasn't the right answer. The right answer was," and unfolds the true meaning of life, the universe, and everything. And you move on to the afterlife with a copy of the home version game and a year's supply of rice-a-roni, the San Francisco treat. Story 28. I think it's a mystery, but maybe it's just a peaceful nothingness or a shift into something we can't comprehend yet. It's hard to say, but I like to think we leave something behind, even if it's just in memories. Story 29. It's a wasteland, dark and hellish but not hell. There are demons running rampant. When you see a ghost peeking out from around a corner, those are the souls hiding from the demons. And the ghosts you see at the foot of your bed, not hiding, those are the demons. There's a gate you can go to see if you can enter a guarded heavenly place, but you must be strong enough to get through. And you wander, hoping one day to get through. Story 30. I would like to think one of two things. 1. Christianity got it kind of right, with good people going to paradise with their loved ones while really bad people suffered forever. There is nothing at all. Story 31. A lot of stuff that does not involve me anymore, I'd assume. What will I personally experience after death? Well, nothing. I won't be capable of experiencing anything since the means for that have ceased their function. I don't believe in any form of afterlife or rebirth or whatever other metaphysical ideas are floating around. Story 32. I think the moment you die, you finally, truthfully see the impact you have had on everyone in your life. For some people, that is hell. For some people, it is heaven. And your consciousness finally fades away, with the last impressions being the ripples your life had on the world around you. Story 33. Depending on how you die, it's just emotions and then nothing. For me, when I killed myself and became clinically dead for a bit, I felt a sense of relief and peace. I can't see anything, hear, or smell, but my thoughts exist. And then nothing. Then I woke up. Story 34. You know nothing. Time has no relevance. The universe dies and contracts, only for the Big Bang to happen all over again. Billions of years pass in the blink of an eye, and you get another life in a new and different universe. And so it goes on over and over. Story 35. 20 years ago, I was very young and sick. I was in the hospital when I had a seizure and lost consciousness. I still remember it happening. I was looking at my mother, and suddenly I couldn't move. My vision faded, like theater curtains closing, and then I was out. But I was also awake. All I could see was black, and there were no sounds. My mind was completely empty, and it felt so peaceful. I was aware, yet I didn't want to do anything. Not even move my eyes, not even to think. Nothing. I hope that when I die, it will be the same again. Story 36. The mind, consciousness, and self, like the ability to move my limbs on demand and process sights and sounds, is a product of the brain. When the brain stops doing its chemistry, I will no longer exist. Story 37. I don't think there's an after. You see your life flash before your eyes, and consequently, when you get to the end of that, you reach your life flashing before your eyes again. Ad infinitum. Story 38. You just don't happen after life. It's the same issue as imagining being blind. The closest you can get is closing one eye and then checking what the other sees. Thinking about the absence of something is just out of our brain's capabilities. Story 39. I believe you just stay dead until the death of the universe. And then, in the next universe, you may be reincarnated or may not. There may be trillions of passes of the new universe, but eventually you'll be reincarnated. And even though eons have passed, to you it will seem instantaneous. Story 40. It's weird how people think the most powerful people alive today will be easily forgotten in 1,000 years, easily overshadowed in history by richer, more powerful people who made a fundamentally larger impact on society. Story 41. I personally believe it is likely different for everyone. If you believe there is a heaven, then you are going to heaven if you were good, or hell if you were really horrible, etc. Nothing for people who do not believe in anything, and reincarnation for people who believe or wish to be reincarnated, like me.